afternoon, Fiji. Welcome to joining today's call. Thank you for sticking with us for last 4 days. And at last, it is the final day of the workshop. So one more day, just hang in there, okay? So I think everybody, yeah, so your microphone is muted. Okay, that's good. And please, okay, and make sure your background name is set to the band name is like mine. Yeah, is everybody is good to go. Because we're gonna take a photo of each of you with the same background later. Okay, let me briefly give today's schedule. Okay, since Eleanor wasn't able to deliver her country report, so she's going to briefly present her work. And then we'll have 2 action plan presentations. And after that, we'll have short tea break, and then we'll have commencement followed by group photos. Okay, Eleanor, are you? Can you come to the front and make a presentation? Give a presentation.
Doctor, can you make us the co-host because we can share screen?
Oh, you can see her
We can do the sharing screen because of we are not the co-host.
Oh, okay. So the Hong Dang media, can you help them with some technical support and to make them able to share the screen?
Yes.
Our name is Koika Global Woman, the one.
Meeting room or Koika?
Koika Global Women's.
Yes. Just a moment, please.
Bolavinaka, for the country report that I've prepared, I'd just like to mention that this is a brief presentation, and it's a totally different lens that you will be seeing, a different perspective, more onto the social aspect and the social perspective of this marine bioresources information. Just the background information. I work as a conservation officer under the Itoki Affairs Board. And the Itoki Affairs Board, it's a statutory body that's mandated under the Itoki Affairs Act, Cap 120, which is mandated to ensure the good governance and well-being of the Itoki people, the indigenous people in the 14 provinces of Fiji. So all the 14 provincial councils are housed under this Itoki Affairs Board. In 2013, the Itoki Affairs Board saw the inception of its conservation unit to support the preservation of natural resources. Consequently, there was the gazetting of this role that I now hold, and to serve in the 14 provinces. And the Itoki Affairs operations are now guided by 5 strategic pillars, one of which is now conservation of natural resources and building resilience. So for chapter 1, in terms of the status of biological sampling, we, the Itoki Affairs Board, we're not directly involved in actual sampling, but rather the FPIC, the free prior informed consent, and the excess benefit sharing mechanism, which ensures the best interest of Itoke community and thus the preservation of the cultural value of these resources. This is in terms of the inshore sampling that happens, which will affect the fishing, the Ngolingoli, or the inshore borders where customary rights ownership comes into place. So that's our role as the conservation officers, ensuring that Itoke people, their best interest is in place in terms of marine biological sampling. So the second point is that researchers seek the assistance of the provincial council. First, they have to apply for a permit with the ministry, and then they can come and work with the Itoke communities if we're dealing with inshore. And these are the researchers are the experts in sampling, taxonomy, and managing biological information. And we work mostly with the Institute of Applied Science researchers from the University of South Pacific, as well as the Ministry of Fisheries. So a challenge from our perspective is that the comprehension of marine bioresources information at the community level, their ecological significance. Yeah? Why should the Itoke people be concerned about sampling that's within their Ngolingoli or within the fishing grounds? And secondly, the lack of capacity in the Itoke community and the Itoke Affairs Board to manage the bioresource information, because they had applied first for permits and to work with the provincial council. They are also obligated to then provide a report of the results. So bringing that technical result, the comprehension at the board and at the community is very little. Secondly, in the status of taxonomy identification, from literature review, I found that there's, since Fiji is party to the UN Convention on the Biodiversity, there's a document that we prepared. It was prepared I've consulted only the 2003 document, but we now have a latest document for the National Biodiversity Strategy and Action Plan from 2020 to 2025. And in this document, it had stated that Fiji's marine biodiversity is not well known, but it's better known than most in the region. And the document also said that the knowledge of most taxa is incomplete. I've just lifted out just an example. The document, it documents the biodiversity status of marine invertebrates, including echinoderms, crustaceans, and according to the native living species. Secondly, the other document that was also consulted was the State of Environment Report in 2013, which documents the resilience and the vulnerability of the marine environment. It had classified that tuna and tuna-like species, their status is fairly stable. And for sharks, it's poor or deteriorating. But for both of these parameters, they highlighted that the data confidence of saying that this is the status is medium. There's also the Fiji fishery profile. I'm sure that the group members have already shared on this, and the other experts and the technical specialists to speak on this topic. Moving on, the challenge when consulting the NBCEP document, an action that was highlighted was to undertake a national needs assessment for biodiversity and bioresource management in conjunction with reviewing the causes at tertiary institutions and implementing findings. And for this action, the Department of Environment was highlighted to be the arm that leads this action, but the Department of Environment itself is a small department, and they have many other roles to play, which will require assistance of supporting organization. So then again, the challenge is limited capacity at the national level and financial setbacks, as well as data quality, as I highlighted when mentioning the State of Environment report. In terms of managing the bioresource information, I understand that different ministries and organizations manage their own bioresource information, like the Ministry of Fisheries having their own set of bioresource information compared to research institutes and conservation organizations. The NBCF, as well as the State of Environment, they hold some information on bioresources, but not all. And the challenges that have been found are that one is silo operations, and two is that there's no centralized database for all marine bioresource information. It's being housed in different sections in different ministries and organizations. Moving on to chapter 2, the status of women leadership in marine scientific research of Fiji. Women representation in marine research is very minimal, but it has been increasing over the years. In the 4 years that I had worked with the Cerro Provincial Office, there were only 3 women researchers around marine science and climate change who we worked with. And finally, consulting with the State of Environment report, out of the 6 persons acknowledged for contributing to the marine section of the document, 3 of them were women, namely Helen Sykes of Marine Ecology Consulting, Stacy Jupiter of Wildlife Conservation Society, and Sarah Sharma of Ministry of Fisheries. The challenge to women leadership in marine scientific research, one is unconscious bias and care responsibilities, limiting women participation in marine scientific research. And secondly, there's no register or repository of women in marine scientific research, like a centralized national register. I understand that women in fishery have some documents on this, but there's no national register to document and collect information of women and the research that they have done in marine science. Thank you, that is all.
Thank you, Eleanor, for your wonderful presentation. It seems like data quality issues and discovering more taxa is an issue in Fiji as well, and also in different organizations and different institute, they just collect and manage their own data without sharing with any other institute. That's also another problem. It's not the only problem in Fiji, it's also a problem in Korea as well. Even though we have some information system called Embrace is run by Korean government, even if it's run by Korean Ministry of Fishery, some institute they're performing in the marine science, they also have their own database that cannot be shared with us. But we are trying to reach out and collecting all the data from my marine scientific field, and we still are doing it. And this is not an only solved issues in Fiji. Joe, do you have any comments or thoughts?
Sure, thank you. Thank you, Dr. Yang, and hello again, everyone. As you can hear, my voice is a little bit better than when I last spoke to you a few days ago. So I've recovered a bit. Thankfully, it's not COVID. Not COVID. I tested myself. It was just a regular old cold that I got from my little baby, but that happens, as you all probably know. And yeah, I actually have been this week very busy as well here in Montreal for work on the post-2020 global biodiversity framework, which as I said, I think I mentioned on the first day, is a new set of global goals and targets that governments are developing for biodiversity. And actually very, very often we hear lots of statements and reminders and emphasis on the importance of Indigenous peoples and local communities as not only the need to empower and the need to protect their traditional rights and uses of the marine environment, but also their important stewardship role and the valuable role that they play and that their knowledge can play in managing and helping managing and utilizing resources in a sustainable way. So this presentation was very interesting and very much also kind of speaking to lots of the things that my colleagues and I have been talking about this week. I was also very glad to see the reference to the NBSAP, of course, coming from the CBD. Those are our babies all over the world. So we love to see those, and we love to see all of our parties having their babies out there and proud of them. So that's really wonderful. So yeah, I think this presentation was really interesting and also speaks a lot to some of the issues that we deal with, that we've often dealt with in the CBD, in terms of trying to find the linkage between, what's considered, I guess, perhaps, certain types of I guess, maybe scientific, so to speak, scientific data and knowledge, and linking that together with the understandings and the sort of the ways in which local communities and indigenous peoples traditionally use and refer to these resources. And we've often found that while we were looking for some kind of information, or we were asking them if they had a certain type of data, they would say, no, we don't have that. But then later, when we got into a certain conversation about that resource, but framing it in a different way, they said, oh yeah, we have all of that information on that, which was actually the same kind of information. We were just not calling it the same thing. We weren't talking about it in the same way. So I think in this regard, a lot of what was highlighted in the presentation here was saying that there's a lack of data and a lack of bioresource information management. But and I should also say that I'm not familiar with I was very informative to me, and I don't really know the Itauke peoples very well, but I would guess that there is probably quite a lot of information held in different forms, as well as and managed in different ways, whether maybe it's not in an information, a resource bank, a biobank or something like that, but it's perhaps more in the form of, in many parts of the world, there's things like oral history and whatnot. So I think rather than just saying there's nothing there may be things there that can be built on, but that need to be translated, or conversely, that the people that are managing that information in a scientific way, managing other scientific information, need to have some capacity building to better understand how local communities understand the kind of knowledge that local communities have. Because we often come into this dynamic of saying that we have to take the traditional knowledge and translate it to the modern world, but I think we often have to do the opposite as well. We have to make sure that modern science can better integrate and understand traditional knowledge and how local communities use and manage information. Another thing that we found, and I think that this spoke to, is that, and I think I saw this in some of the other presentations that kind of spoke to me, is there's often a big, when there's a lack of information and there's users of the resource and there's managers of the resource, there needs to be a prioritization of why they need this information and what this information is going to be valuable for. So just going to a local community or to a fisherman, as you probably know, and many of you probably are involved in this, if you say, it's taxonomic information is important, they're going to say, why? Is it going to help me catch more fish? Is it going to help me sell more fish? Is it going to help us understand how to make them more sustainable? Then why? Just for the sake of science. So I think in that regard, it can be useful to think about ways in which the needs for information and the requirements for the data that may be there from the sort of scientific perspective may also align with the needs of the community and the needs of the users. So in that regard, you not only make them care about why the need is there and why it's important, but in some cases you can also help them to be, and they can also become allies and an important resource in actually getting that information and helping for some different types of sampling and helping to advise on where you might find certain types of species. So I think there's a lot of opportunities there. It's just there's always a need to find the common denominator, and I think the common denominator is that we need information, but what do we both we need information, and we need to find information for things that we both care about, both from the scientific perspective and from the communities and resource users and managers and peoples. So those are just my initial thoughts, and I think I'd have to look more into that to see if I have more thoughts on that. But I think there probably is a lot of capacity already built in to the local communities there that I think can also be a major strengths that you you just have to perhaps look at it in a little bit of a different way and reframe it to say, maybe we have this information, we just don't refer to it and call it the same kind of way and have the same kind of understanding. But making sure that the priorities are aligned between the science and the policy and the people is really what can help to drive change, to get the information that you need that can help to fulfill all of the benefits across the different groups and stakeholders. So I'll stop there. I hope that's helpful. Thank you.
Thank you very much for sharing your knowledge and expertise on this. Okay, then why don't we move on to next, which is action plan presentation. There will be 2 action plan presentation, and Dr. Epio will lead this session. Joe, please go ahead. And the first group, the presenter of first group, could you make the way to the front and just give us presentation, please?
Group 1. Okay. You almost gave me a hot pocket.
No, they wanted to add the last minute changes.
Which one?
2022, down 2022.
Yeah.
Are we good to go?
Yes, go ahead. Yes.
Okay. Okay, good afternoon, everyone. We are group 1, and we consist of Saini, Natalie, Lilieta, Marama, Tamari, Viviana, and myself, Renee. This afternoon, we are presenting our action plan to you on for enhancing the generation and sharing of marine bioresources information. And we are basically going to talk about commercializing of sea urchins in Fiji, and the species that we are talking about is that species. I'm not too sure how we pronounce that, but, and just a brief background, this species of sea urchin is locally known as the Thawaki, and it is the only species that is edible in Fiji with a gonad, a particular delicacy in coastal villages. And it is distributed around Fiji shallow and coral ecosystems. Okay, for our goals, like I said, the main goal is to commercialize sea urchins in Fiji. And why we came up with this is because lately we have seen a trend with increasing export of sea urchins. Now, to get to what our main goal, we have listed some short-term goals, which will take us, say, about 2 to 5 years to reach. And this is the introduction of management strategy for sea urchins in fishery. We realize that we don't actually have a management strategy or any regulations. My colleagues will touch on that more, but that is one of our goals. Also, we want to research the recruitment and growth of these sea urchins and hopefully have more studies and more papers on them, with particularly with the spawning time, so that we can establish maybe some harvesting periods and ensure that we always have high yields. Along with this research, we would hope to collect catch data, CPU for assessment and management of stock, and also be able to conduct a comprehensive stock assessment. Now, all these short terms, we are hoping to engage a lot of women, because we know in the villages, a lot of women are the ones collecting these from the reefs. Not only that, but they are also the ones selling them at the markets. For our longer term goals, we hope to establish a successful market overseas for sea urchins. And to do that, we are hoping to, if we can't, set up a sea urchin farm, maybe get into a breeding program where we can restock our natural stocks. For our long-term goal, in line with SMART goals, economic growth has been very specific, because we're going to commercialize it. We hope to grow our economy, measurable monetary value, increase our export up to 80%. Attainable, we are sure we can secure markets and attain technical expertise. This is on the side of breeding process. We will need a lot of expertise there. Relevant, in line with our national goals, food security, economic growth and sustainability, and timeline, 5 years.
The issues to be addressed, the SWOT analysis for the challenges. Currently, we have the lack of expertise, research and technical expertise in Fiji to conduct that, especially on the management of sea urchins. And also we don't have the lack of infrastructure. If we have to do to farm or to breed sea urchin, then we should need a good infrastructure in place to do that. And also the funding. We need the funds to acquire this project. There's another challenges we don't have right now, the sea urchins regulation. We need to formulate one in order for this project to go on. And the opportunities, right now we have abundance of sea urchins in most of the coral reefs in Fiji. And secondly, the opportunity we have is venturing into the export markets. Right now, abundance of sea urchins are available locally for the local markets. And there seems to be exporting going on, but it's only to the relatives, the Fijians who stays overseas. Not in, we are not exporting to Asian markets, to other countries. It's only for consumption. This deals with Fijians who are staying overseas. And also the opportunities we are looking at is, it will create employment in Fiji. Employment to the community, the owners of fishing ground. And also if we have to do farming, we will also create employment for those who look after the farms. And also income generation, especially for the women's group, who always take part in the village fishing ground. This is income generation for the women as well. And opportunities too for the academic institution to do study on sea urchins. And the threats, some of the threats we come up with are the disease outbreak on sea urchins. And we should be having the technical expertise to counter the disease outbreak on sea urchins. And also in the environmental factors, and that is the salinity, the temperature of the seawater, biological factors such as nutritional reproductive states. Those are some of the threats that we will need to come up with a solution to to what's this? Some of the solution here for us to be equipped with when these threats appears, and also on habitat destruction and this pandemic here. Mainly, we're thinking of when we start exporting to the overseas markets, and this could be a threat when the pandemic, and then we have the flights that has been no more flights going to the overseas market, and that will be a threat to us in terms of exporting. And also the pollution. Pollution from land, the land-based pollution, which also end up in the sea, and normally causes pollution out in the sea where the sea urchins live.
As you can see in our next slide, these are the key factors and the stakeholders whom will be worked with to achieve our goal. First one is Ministry of Fisheries in terms of regulatory authority for marine resources. The second one is Ministry of Fijian Affairs in terms of community-owned fishing ground. Next one is Ministry of Environment for site selection and environmental factors. Fifth one is Ministry of Health in terms of export criteria. Next one is Custom and Biosecurity to determine the right consignment and free from contamination. We also need the Ministry of Economy for funding and Ministry of Trade and Commerce in price regulatory for sea urchins. We also need the Ministry of Women's for participatory of women's, and also with the Ministry of Youth to involve youth. And lastly, we need these NGOs for research purposes and collaboration work.
So moving on to approaches for collaboration to enhance the generation and sharing of marine bioresources. As earlier mentioned, we aim to collaborate with institutions and like the University of the South Pacific, specifically the discipline of marine studies. And as earlier mentioned, also organizations like Wildlife Conservation Society, the Pacific Community, and Japan International Cooperation Agency. Why we had mentioned JICA was because, as previous research have seen, Japan is actually the world's largest market for sea urchins. So locally, I mean, we can always collaborate with such organizations. For the legal part, we aim, as from the Ministry of Fisheries, as previous reports also shown, that studies have shown that sea urchins actually locally lack a proper management strategy. So through the Ministry of Fisheries, we aim to formulate the sea urchin fisheries management plan, where we can implement perhaps size limits, catch limits, or quota limits. And then for our scientific and technical conditions, we hope to conduct more research for recruitment, gathering information such as recruitment, growth, spawning, harvest time, data collection, and catch per unit effort data.
Going on to the next slide, it's the expected outcomes and success criteria. What are the intended long-term impacts of the action plan? First is the get a stable export market. One of the things is that given current economy, having a well-defined target market for for the business to take place, and it is the most important thing to do. Well, export market development requires planning and also like development, effective planning and perfect relationship. Develop strategy, creating developing a new market can be easy to manage and earn a solid foundation for success. And the second one is a successful restocking program. Application of aquaculture technologies by producing and releasing juveniles. Juveniles reared in conservation hatcheries could be a useful tool to restock local species that are likely to extinct or threatened due to over-exploitation of fishing pressures. And in addition to that, restocking, stock enhancement, and sea ranching are promising management tools to restore lost production, also allowing the recovery of the species. Okay, our last point to discuss is how will you measure if the implementation is successful or not? First point is increase in income generation to communities. In most villages, women are known to do a lot of domestic duties, but when we will implement this project, the women will be the ones who will be doing this project. So take for example, if the income generation is 30% before, when women are involved, it will increase to 70% or 80%. Second point, abundance of sea urchins. Since sea urchins reproduce externally, they reproduce by sending clouds of sperm into the water, and female urchins, they release 20 million eggs. So out of these 20 million eggs, 5 million can make it back to the shore. So that means that there is a lot of sea urchins out there. Our third point, increase in export earnings to the government. In one of the survey, I found out that sea urchin is a really expensive commodity. As mentioned by Natalie, she said that Japan is one of the sea urchin market. So according to Ms. Welch, if we sell our sea urchin to Japan, they usually have 152 million yen. So if we convert 152 million yen to Fijian dollar, the government will be receiving 7 millions. So I can say that that will be 100% increase in export earnings. Our last point is the creation of employment. So those who are unemployed will be employed, and this will decrease poverty level in all the communities. Thank you.
Great, thank you. So are we still presenting now, or is there more to go? So I'm sorry. Was there another speaker?
That's all.
Sorry, please go ahead.
I think that's all.
Oh, that's it.
Yeah,
that's it. Okay, great. Thank you so much. Yeah, that was really interesting, and it touched on a lot of topics that I think are really quite broad-reaching and quite highly relevant. So, you know, I'm not there in person, but I think we should give a round of applause for a great presentation. So, thank you so much for that. That was really interesting. And I think one of the things that came to mind was, I think actually there's I think you may be underselling the value of what that project could be. I think there could be a lot more value in a broader way than you even captured there. You've really highlighted a really interesting opportunity that I think could perhaps be even more broadly relevant for a wide range of different purposes. So I think first, when we're thinking about we're thinking about things like bioresource management and conservation and sustainable use and all of these things that we in the CBD talk a lot about. We often, I think, traditionally kind of separate that a little bit from like economic development and trade and things of that nature. But in fact, they're highly linked, and in fact, the development of an industry in a sustainable way can really drive intelligent management of a resource, and can be a major driving factor for actually developing a management plan, like you noted, especially for resources that might not have a development plan. I think also thinking about there was a little bit of there was some points in there regarding education, and I think also thinking about what a urchin, or urchin growth or urchin farming, or at least just the further cultivation of it, could be also linked to things like research. I mean, could there be opportunities for local universities and schools to do enhanced and improve and use this as a place for them to, increase the educating use for educational purposes, or for graduate research purposes? Could it be a tourism opportunity? Could it be a place for tourists to come and see a new and interesting industry that's developing, or just to learn more about urchins? I'm sure many of us don't know about these specific type of urchins. And I think even going even further and connecting a little bit to the women's development, I think getting local schools and school children to come and see these places, and showing young girls how women can be leading in a certain industry can be a major inspiring factor to get them to want to play a more active role. So I think actually linking and highlighting the potential for that kind of a project in a broader way, and for all of those other kinds of purposes that are there, can not only help to get can help your case for making this a reality, but can also help to broaden the potential sources of funding and support that you could get for this kind of an initiative. So I think, that kind of an initiative and that kind of a project in the sense of its broader potential benefits would certainly not only be of interest to, I think, a lot of the donors that are active in that region, but also to major global organizations like the UN Development Program and the World Bank and the Global Environment Facility and things of that nature. Those are more of the groups that I work with, and who I know are often interested in those kinds of things that are not only specifically conservation or traditional conservation, but are linked to socioeconomic development as well. So I think by maybe broadening your thinking on the value of what that kind of a project can bring about, you can open the opportunities for support, for collaboration, for partnerships. I think another thing is to think about the fact that I think that there will have to be, and for that kind of endeavor, there would be certainly costs required for the equipment for however you're going to grow and manage and sell and deal with those resources. But I think you may also think about if there could be opportunities for sort of joint ownership or shared ownership of some of that equipment with some local universities and research facilities or tourism operators or things of that nature, or and likewise then can also be used for other type of sampling purposes. So I think then again looking at where there can be overlaps and opportunities for pooling of resources or for sharing of resources with other valuable uses of the marine environment could be certainly that could be ways to reduce your overhead and to get more partners and partnership on board, and as I said, to sell this kind of an initiative to a broader group of stakeholders. One other point, another one that came to mind is I think you could consider the marketability of this project with respect to women's engagement. So all over the world, I mean, there's a growing focus on where products are coming from and how they're being made and who's involved in the making of them. Of course, that's been an issue for a long time, but in many parts of the world, there's a growing eco-consciousness and social consciousness about where the products are coming from. So the marketability, the labeling of those products, whether it's eco-labeling or social labeling, gender labeling, so to speak, could be one thing. And so that actually, selling these products and marketing them as a women-driven and a women-centric business can be a major, not only obviously a strength for the project itself, but also a major selling point for that. And I think something that a lot of consumers in various parts of the world are really interested in, beyond their interest in the product itself. I think of actually an example from Korea. I know in Jeju Island, there's a group of women's divers off the coast of Jeju Island it's been this industry where they go and they dive for abalone, and it's only women generally that do that in that specific place, and it's become such a big focus that I think more people know that there's this famous group of women's divers than actually know what they're diving for. So it's actually, in that case, I think the marketing has almost outshone the actual resource that they're doing. So I think it can be a very powerful tool. And I think that's something you can think about when you're developing this project. But yeah, I think overall it's also important to think about, to not forget the management aspect of it, because I think what can often happen is that when there's a new economic opportunity, sometimes it's rushed into or taken advantage of in a little bit of a overexcited way, and the sort of sustainable management of it is kind of seen as an afterthought, and we'll deal with that later once we get the profits and returns coming, then we'll deal with how to actually manage this. And then unfortunately sometimes that just doesn't happen. So I think also therein making sure that the sustainable management plan is a part of the overall business plan, and it frankly should be. I mean, that's what any smart businessman will do, is make sure that their resource base is smart businesswoman, apologies, that their resource base is sustainable. But I think making that a core part of the project is really important, not only for the benefit of and the sustainability of the resource, but again, coming back to selling this project and to potential donors, and again, not only donors that are interested in the sort of trade aspects of it, but also interested in the sustainable development and conservation and things of that nature. So I think by centering and integrating some of those broad reaching and potential and opportunities of this, you can really broaden the opportunities for support and the opportunities for partnerships that can help to make this a reality. But I think the important part also is what's the next step? So how do you actually make this a reality? What are you going to do next week, next month, next 5 months to make this happen? But it was very interesting, and for me, from a completely different part of the world, really, it's really nice to hear these little snippets. I feel like I'm in my mind, I'm a little bit there with you in Fiji, drinking a nice bowl of kava. I've never had Fijian kava. I've had Vanuatu kava, but I need to have Fijian kava one day. So I'll get there one day. So thank you so much for that. And I hope my insights are useful. And I believe you have some time to further work on that. But again, I think another thing that I think was a little bit missing, and it's understandable, we often do this, is to really look at your internal strengths and what you have in place, and to see where you can capitalize on that. I also did see a few regional agencies and organizations that I think probably would be interested and would probably be relevant to collaborate with. Maybe I'm wrong. You probably know this landscape and these organizations maybe better than I do. But I do work with a lot of partners and colleagues. As SPC, I saw that you noted SPC. That's really useful. But I think there's quite a few others, like maybe the Pacific Islands Forum CSIRO in Australia is a really interesting one that works sometimes at the nexus of economy and science and conservation. But I think to think also outside of the region, as I said, some of the global organizations and agencies can be really, really interested as well. So yeah, I think there's a lot of opportunities. It's just, how do you get this going? How do you get moving? I think you have to really take stock of what you have to work with now, and probably start putting together a really good plan. And then also, again, coming back to the bioresource part, not forgetting where this project can also help with improving the state of knowledge of the bioresources of Fiji, perhaps not only for this resource, but how the capacity and the capacities and the equipment and the resources that would be needed to develop this project can also be used to develop and enhance the knowledge of other resources in Fiji, which again is a good selling point. So I think those are my insights. I'm sure others, and again, I'm sure you guys know this world much better than I do, but this is just my take on this really interesting project. So congratulations. It's really, really fantastic work, and I look forward to seeing how it goes forward. Thank you.
It's great. Thank you very much for your just thoughtful and thorough feedback. So can I just add just a little bit? I really, really appreciate you acknowledging the women-driven activity in my hometown, Jeju Island, and their just diving activities. And also, I just want to add, just some of you just mentioned about the breeding program. I think this one is directly linked to your local university, and it's beneficial for the university as well. And in research perspective, and if this outbreak happens, what kind of viruses, bacteria is caused driving factors for this, and also researching breeding program create a lot of another researches and jobs and etc. And they'll be really beneficial. And I think it is a good time to ask a question, group 1 or group 2, just any question to Joe, and he's an expert who can just develop your just make your action plan more. Your action plan better, and will be implemented in a better way. Any question?
Or I wonder if the other participants may have questions for that group. And I maybe I don't know if they've all had a chance to work together, but that could be interesting, interesting as well.
Thank you. Sorry, just one question from group 2. No, I just wanted to ask when are they going to implement the action plan for the sea urchin? When are they going to start implementing the proposal, the action plan, sorry?
So anyone in the group 1, can you answer the question? So when are you going to implement?
Okay. I think we will our action plan. We will be presenting it to the executive management of the Ministry of Fisheries, and we will also get their views on the action plan that we've prepared. If they say okay, you can go ahead, then yeah, we will need to do first thing first, like do a management plan, and then from there, then we can request funding to carry on with the stages that we need to carry out in the action plan.
Thank you, Group One. My last question to the facilitators. No, I'm just keen to know because this program started last year. So I just wanted to know whether the participants from last year have actually implemented their action plan. Thank you.
I don't think Joe can answer that. Because she was not in there.
I wasn't here last year. I don't know.
He wasn't there. I wasn't there either. But I heard that no one,
Oh, okay.
no one has been implement their action plan yet. So I'm gonna encourage them to implement them. Or if there are any revised action plan is available, I just ask them. All right. Who raised their hand? Okay. Is there any other question? Just anything is fine. Any question?
Thank you, Group One, for your presentation. Just a short question. In terms of commercializing sea urchins, are you only looking at exportation or local produce in terms of through restaurants and
Right now, okay, right now the abundance of sea urchins we have locally, we are supplying to the local markets. So we'll need to do a management plan first thing, to see the stock, so we can also supply to the overseas markets. Right now, the demand for the local markets, yes, we can meet that.
Great. Well, should we move on perhaps? I don't know if we have more time for more discussion, but yeah, once again, I think let's say thank you so much to the first group, and that was really, really useful. I think one thing that can be interesting and that we've seen can be very effective into helping each other, encourage each other, and stay in touch and advance these things is to perhaps create some kind of a group by which you continue to communicate as you move forward in the development and implementation of your plans. So whether that's a Facebook group or something of that nature, I think that's something
You are just waking up.
So is there now, I guess then we move to group 2. If the second group can come up to the front, and there we go. Okay, great. Please go ahead.
Thank you. This afternoon, I will be presenting on Group 2 action plan. The participants are myself, Venina, Manise Rambe, Eleonora Vula, Arish Maram, Elisambeta Vataniarangi, Vane Vode, and Kiri Verewale. Only 4 of the participants will be presenting this afternoon because 3 are shy. So Group 2 action plan is focusing on the compilation and sharing of marine bioresources information and data. From the country report presented on day 1, we have highlighted the challenges and needs. For the first one, managing biological information, some of the challenges. On the first one, managing biological information, we've highlighted some of the challenges, the different sampling methods used, no bioresource center, the need for a unified policies to standardize procedures, the establishment and operation, needs for facilities and equipment, ensuring quality and expertise, and data quality and management. So for Fiji, these are some of the challenges that So for Fiji, these are some of the challenges that we have with managing biological information. The government organizations and also the non-government organization who carry out biological survey. They have different sampling methods, and there's actually no bioresource center. And also for the national legislation, there is a need for unified policies and legislation to standardize procedures in terms of managing biological information. And also in terms of ensuring the quality and expertise in terms of sampling and analyzing those data, and writing scientific reports up to the publication of those reports. On the assessment of women's leadership in marine scientific research of Fiji, UNESCO reports 38% of women researchers in ocean science. Women are employed in the maritime sector, local government, under the Ministry of Fisheries and Environment. And also we have women marine scientific research employed in the non-government organization that have been mentioned already on day one for the NGOs. And we also have women in science have significantly increased pursuing their careers in this field. And the challenges in establishing women leadership in marine scientific research. Women continue to remain underrepresented at every level, starting from entry-level jobs to high-level positions. Also the availability of support, advice, and training, and there's a lack of funding for women to pursue career in this field. And building management tools for women who are actively involved in the management of marine resources at local to global levels, uplifting the profile of Pacific women in ocean management and science can help create opportunities and alleviate gender discrimination. So to further elaborate on the challenges, building management tools for women who are actively involved in the management of marine resources and that acknowledge female needs and roles alongside the stronger involvement of female scholars in marine scientific fields can help decision makers to elaborate more informed and inclusive decisions. This change can strengthen women's engagement in ocean management, facilitate monitoring of female inclusiveness into planning mechanism, frame more accurate risk assessment, and facilitate preparedness and resilience building. So practical steps are also needed to ensure improved retention of female marine science graduates in the region to ensure persistence of a gender balance through all stages of a professional marine career, including as academics or in technical or advisory services. This gender-responsive professionalization of marine careers must start at least at the higher education establishment, but also become increasingly pervasive in the recipient employees in the Pacific region, be they academia, government, or international organization. So on the status, just to give a brief on the assessment of marine bioresource information in Fiji. The information is available with the government ministries, such as Ministry of Fisheries and Ministry of Environment, and also with the non-government organizations such as WCS, WWF, Conservation International, UCN, and also the academic institutions such as the University of the South Pacific. We have this marine bioresources information available. It's available on Google, but there is no specific centralized database where the stakeholders can access, but we can access some of this information and reports through Google. And on the assessment of women's leadership in marine scientific research for Fiji, would like to give an example for Dr. Katie Sawapi, who is currently a leader in ocean science and conservation in Fiji, as well for the Solomon Islands. And linking it to the national context, Fiji is a party to the Convention on the Biological Diversity. So the implementation of the actions outlined here will be undertaken through partnership between the various agencies within the government of Fiji and nationally based non-governmental organizations working collaboratively with the communities and the private sectors. So for the key focus of the action plan, the approaches for the action plan, that's including the scientific cooperation such as USP and SPC, stakeholder engagement. So we have discussed and come up with a technical working group to oversee this action plan, and also for communication, maintain and strengthen a network between stakeholders. And on capacity building, we are proposing for overseas training and attachment programs for Fiji staffs. This is even with the local institutions, or if the opportunity arises, then can send the local staff overseas for training. And for managing biological information, it all starts from taxonomy and sampling, like the first group have already elaborated on, and to maintain the biological information. And for this as well, it requires needs development of a national legislation that also incorporates and addresses gender equity. So for the goals and objectives, our goal is to establish a National Marine Biobank Resource Center by 2032. And the objectives, the first one is to revive the existing fisheries laboratory and library as a conducive national resource center. Currently, Ministry of Fisheries, it has 2 libraries with 1 librarian staff overseeing the record keeping and maintenance of the information in the library. And we do have an old building which used to be a lab, and our first objective is that we wish to revive that existing fisheries building, the lab and the library. The second objective is to employ an accredited workforce. And the third one is to establish an accurate and authentic database or repository of marine biodata. Thank you. I'll hand over to my colleague.
Thank you. As you can see on the screen, this is our timeline for this project. It is a 10-year project, and it also outlines the activities that we aim to achieve throughout until the 10th year. In the first year, we aim to to ground the facts and draw a proposal for this project. On the second year, we aim to receive approval from the government on our proposal and formulate a steering committee or a technical working group to head this project together with the Ministry of Fisheries, and also draft the national legislations policy and review existing framework that we have, and involve our stakeholders through industry consultation. Also, with the assistance from the government, we also would seek available donor fundings that would help in this project. On this, in the third year, in the second year, we will redraft and have the second round of consultation and involve our Solicitor General's office for vetting before we finalize this legal framework and seek cabinet approval. With the approval from the government, we will renovate an existing lab and library, which is currently with the Ministry of Fisheries, and purchase new equipment, database, IT servers, and also backup server to assist with the project. In 2027, the fifth year, we aim to collect data and conduct migration of the data to the new database and training of staff on this new equipment, and also on data collection. Till the 10th year, we aim to establish this National Marine Bioresource Exhibit Center and also laboratory. I believe on the 10th year that is what we have, but we also note that it would be an ongoing project to collect data for research and also to ensure that the biobank has correct data and also updated regularly. Thank you.
Naka, moving on to issues to be addressed. Having a look at the SWOT analysis that we've done, we're looking at 4 actors for this project: 1, infrastructure; 2, the workforce; 3, the data and data management; and finally, the legal aspect. So when we're looking at the first one, the infrastructure, the strength that we have an existing building and some resources available. But the weakness is that the building is quite old and it's not in use. There's lack of equipment, specifically for sampling and laboratory work. The opportunity that we have is to renovate this old building and purchase new laboratory equipment to become a resource center. The threats for this is that is funding constraints. There's a change of national priorities, which may not prioritize this action plan. And the third one is the unsustainable workflow leading to proposal not being implemented on time. Secondly, when we're looking at the workforce, we have some existing human resources available with us, with the Ministry of Fisheries, but the current workforce are not fully competent to run this bioresource center. And there's no legal department within the Ministry of Fisheries to also assist with this plan. The opportunity that we have is upskilling of the workforce to become an accredited one through job training, overseas attachment programs, and to also introduce staff retention policies so that the threat of staff turnover is lower. Thirdly, when we're looking at the data, there are, like we've already mentioned, bioresource data and information are available, but the access to this data is limited because of what we mentioned before, section-based and different methodologies for data collection. And there's also lack of publication, which was highlighted by the team from Ministry of Fisheries. Most of the data that they collect, it will only become published once another NGO works with them and publishes this information. The opportunity that we have for data and data management is actually establishing a central and a national bioresource repository with a compatible server. We have opportunities for access to general bioresource information for the open public, for the general public. And the only threat for this, for data management, is system hacking and system crashing. The final one, when we're looking at the legality of this action plan, the strength is that there are some memorandum of understandings between stakeholders like Ministry of Fisheries and SPC and others, but there's no specific legislation to govern the work. So there's an opportunity to develop legislations and policies, and the only threat would be that these policies that we would want developed not being passed in Parliament. Thank you. I'll hand it over now to Arishma.
I will be talking on the stakeholders and collaboration. We've come up with the key actors and stakeholders. The lead organization will be Ministry of Fisheries for this project. We would like to also engage the current staff to manage the Bioresource Center and information. So that way our staffs would be trained. Also, we would like to collaborate with the academic institutions and organizations such as USP, SPC, and WCS in terms of taxonomy and marine scientific expertise. And the approaches for collaboration to enhance the generation and sharing of marine bioresource information. The scientific cooperation liaise with USP and SPC. Stakeholder engagements by developing a technical working group to include all the relevant stakeholders, with Ministry of Fisheries taking the lead role with the project and implementation. And also strengthen our communication, capacity building, as my colleagues have mentioned earlier, overseas training, attachments, programs for Fiji staff. If Mabik could sponsor. Also, our expected outcome and successful criteria, we would have a accredited workforce, laboratories with standards and procedures, Fiji leading in the region, and Bioresource Center becoming a tourist attraction, paying a fee for visit the Marine Bioresource Center, which is a return investment to the government. We'll have databases. Quality data will assist in planning and decision making of about our species. For example, right now we had a ban in kawa species in Fiji. That is from our research team that is based in Lami. Also cultural and ecological significance. So with this project, we would know which species are endangered and which needs to be preserved. So this is all from our group. Thank you. Any questions?
Thank you. Thank you so much. Let's give a little round of applause for that fantastic presentation. Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much for that. And I think here we see, excuse me for my coughing, it's very late here. We see quite a diversity of different, a different type of a project and action plan that was developed, but still nonetheless focused on, bioresources. So I think, you know, in this regard, this you know, this shows the broad relevance of why it's important to understand the kind of information and the kind of resources that we have in our waters and the different opportunities therein that can be developed from that. So I think that was really, those two were quite different ends of the spectrum, but nonetheless from a common starting point, which is very interesting. I also liked the timeline, and I liked how you broke down the things that were going to happen at different stages, and you know, basically also showing how the next stages were dependent on the things that were happening in the previous stage and the sort of stepwise aspect of what you have to do. So that was, I think, very logical and very well thought out. So I think some of the comments that I have, and you know, I'm not an expert per se in biobanks and things of that nature. So I think you'd have to talk to people like Dr. Yang and people in Mabic to get more expertise and information on that specific aspect of those things. But I do have nonetheless some insights that I hope could be useful. So first, I think. Again, I think similar to the comments that I had for the previous action plan presentation is is thinking about the broader benefits and the outcomes that can be generated from operationalizing this project and actually making it happen. And again, I think there were snippets of that. There were pieces of that in your presentation saying what kind of benefits this can generate in terms of the actual, you know, benefits for Fiji and for its peoples. But I actually think bringing that really firmly up front is a very powerful message that will make it much more easy and much more sellable to you know, to ministries, stakeholders, and anybody that you want involved in this. And, you know, I say sell in the sense, you know, I'm using this a lot. I sound like a used car salesman, but, you know, in fact, we often have to sell and market our ideas and our proposals, because all of this takes investment of time and money and effort and energy. But I think really crafting and presenting the importance of science, not just for its own sake, but also for the priorities, for the conservation priorities, the economic development priorities, the social priorities, the cultural priorities, all of those things that are important to the people of Fiji, showing how this kind of scientific information, this managing of this information will enhance those benefits and support those priorities, is what's really going to get, you know, that's what's going to get the people that you need paying attention to this to really care about it. So I think, you know, bringing that up front and making even that part of the sort of tagline of this kind of a project is really important. So maybe I'll give you a little example, kind of a silly example from my world, is that we're presently starting in 2021. We started the United Nations Decade of Ocean Science for Sustainable Development. Now, when it was first being developed and when it was first being considered, it was only the United Nations Decade on Ocean Science. And that's all they were saying. Okay, we're going to have a decade on ocean science. But then they realized that, like, okay, if we only talk about ocean science, anybody who's not a scientist isn't really going to care very much. So they decided to sort of link it directly to sustainable development and put that directly in the actual name of the decade, which made everybody pay attention, because they say, well, sustainable development is all of our business. So now, you know, by doing that kind of a small thing, and it does sound a bit trivial, but nonetheless, it is very powerful. They were able to broaden the reach of and the perceived relevance of this ocean of this ocean decade. So now everyone in the UN world is really involved in this, even if they don't do ocean science at all. So those kinds of things those little changes in terms of the communication of your work and how you're presenting it and its relevance and importance can be really important. I think, you know, there was also a point in there about, you know, one of the agencies or ministries not prioritizing this kind of a thing. Well, then what are their priorities? And then if I'm sure that there probably are outcomes that this work can generate that are relevant to some of their priorities. It's just finding that linkage, and where you can actually make that linkage real is where you get the people to sort of hook into that. Some of the other points I was thinking about is whether there may be other similar, let's say similar, similar cases in other Pacific islands that you might look to, or other nearby countries. So I think, maybe it's not so helpful to look at look at another country with a really advanced, bioresource bank, like in Korea or something like that, because that's maybe quite far along. But are there other cases or other countries that are maybe not so far advanced, but a little bit further advanced than Fiji may be? And can you learn lessons from them? Can you actually have some real, almost twinning exercises to see, okay, how did you do this? And you're in a similar situation that we are. You kind of have similar resources, but you were able to make this happen. How did you do that? So I think looking to other cases in other countries and places with similar circumstances that we're able to make things happen. Maybe not exactly in ocean science or exactly in this kind of a biobank, but maybe in a similar kind of initiative of developing that kind of a capacity, and seeing if they were able to do that. And even in that regard, perhaps partnering with or through some of the regional organizations. I think also it's important to keep in mind that there are, when you're thinking about databases and repositories of information, there are there are international, databases that do have information globally that you can build on. So, for example, the OBIS. OBIS is a very important entity that we often work with in the CBD, the Ocean Biogeographic Information System, OBIS. That curates a vast amount of information on ocean resources all around the world. Now, they're always interested in getting more data and seeing where they can improve their data. They have data from all over the world. They probably have data for Fiji, but maybe it's not as developed as they would like it to be, or it's not as specific as they would like it to be. So could there be an opportunity for Fiji and OBIS to partner in a proposal to actually make this happen? Because I'm sure that's something that OBIS would be interested in. Or could there be other, regional databases? I know SPREP runs many different kinds of databases. I know CSIRO, as I mentioned earlier, they're always interested in what's the term they call it? Something mapping. They do often these mapping exercises all over in many different parts of the Pacific. So I think there's probably would be a lot of interest from outside entities to help with this, because they probably have some related interests and initiatives. So I think thinking of where you can look both maybe to other countries that have done this kind of thing in their countries and within their countries, as well as other international databases that may also benefit from helping to develop Fiji's information. That can be really interesting opportunity, I think, to pursue. Finally, I think it's sorry. Finally, I think it's important again to come back to the priorities for what this information would be used for. So I think, if you're talking to any non-scientist, any person who is not directly involved in science, they're going to say, okay, well, what are you going to do with the information? What's it useful for? So I think, depending on how you approach it, and again, I'm not a data scientist. It's not really what I do, but what I do know is that there are all countries have different levels of priorities for different national sustainable development and socioeconomic issues. So whether or not you can approach the development of this project and the kinds of data that you're focusing on managing towards those priorities, towards those conservation or development priorities, can really help to, again, get this idea off the ground, get this proposal moving. So data that can directly contribute to things like enhancing protected area management, enhancing your tourism, focusing on commercially important species, charismatic species, even helping to have a better managing of information on culturally important species. So all of these things, I think, are again, potential selling points, potential areas of priority that you can say, look, this is data that we need to manage, not only for to have a better understanding of what we have in our waters, but because it will contribute to these priorities that we as a country have. So I think bringing that forward again is really important to say that's not just collecting the information, managing the information for its own sake, but what is it actually contributing to that's going to benefit a broader group of people beyond the Ministry of Fisheries, beyond scientists, and really bring added value to your country. I think in addition, you may also want to think about how and where you can perhaps use participatory mapping and community-based knowledge as a starting point for some of this work. All over the world, even in Canada and US, the scientists will often rely on fishermen and people who use the resource and who know the resource and know the waters as the best starting point to see what's happening out there. Where should we be doing our sampling? Where are these stocks going, and what are you seeing? So I think putting an important role for those users, for those stakeholders, building the connections with them, having the conversations. You probably already know many of them personally. You're probably friends that will have, enjoy some social times, but building the kind of connections with those non-scientists, people who are actually out there, can really help to bring added value and benefit and useful, really valuable information, I think, as a starting point to which you can then start focusing the research and building the information into it, but also to actually get the information and then to make sure the information is hopefully used in a productive way. For example, in our work in the CBD, we have this big process where we go around the world in different regions and we work with countries to map out ecologically or biologically significant marine areas called EBSAs. And we have EBSAs all over the world. And I think actually one of the first EBSA workshops was I believe it was in Fiji before I was at the CBD. It was a very long time ago. But a lot of those EBSAs actually, for some of the important criteria in which they were described for and the features in which they were described for, quite a few of them are based on not databases, not scientific journal articles or anything of that nature. It's firsthand expert knowledge in many cases, and we've often then seen that later when there was more or additional research done and sampling and things done of that nature, it actually reinforced and it actually showed that the original expert knowledge that was not based on traditional real modern science methods was actually correct, and it kind of helped to be a really valuable starting point for a lot of that. Another thing to consider is, I think, you mentioned having this information being publicly available and being out there for the public and for the users to use. That's really important. Yeah, that's extremely important. And something to consider in that is what those users are and what those different stakeholder groups, whether it's the public, whether it's different ministries, what are they looking for, and in what way do they need to see and receive the information? Because even in my case, there's scientists or organizations that will send me information, and I'm like, I just can't use this. I know it's important somehow, but it's not in a language, it's not in a format that I can really do anything with in my world, because I work with policy and I need to translate this into policy. So I think when you're thinking about the opportunities to make this accessible and useful and usable by different stakeholders, you also have to think about that the sort of almost a translation part of it. This information's there, but how do we translate this for the people that need to see it? And that's going to take time and resources to do. So thinking about where it's valuable to do that. So saying, this is publicly available and that's great, But what part of the public is going to use this? Is it for education? If it's for education, maybe it's for elementary education, for higher level education, then maybe it might have to be presented in different formats. Now, I'm not saying you have to do all of that, but those are things to consider to actually make that aspect of the information more usable to a broader range of users. So, for my case, again, coming back to the example of EBSAs, we describe EBSAs for certain features and we describe them in certain ways. But when we present that information and we give it to another body, let's say, a body like the International Maritime Organization that regulates global shipping, they say this is interesting, but in its format as it is, we can't really use it for our management purposes. So we have to translate it, and that does take work, and we have to decide where and how we're going to do that and if it's worth it. But that is an important decision, and if you make a good decision that it is worth it and you invest the time to do that, it can pay off a lot of benefits. So I hope that's useful. I'm talking quite a lot, so I hope you're not bored of hearing me talk. And I'm sure there's many more thoughts that will come to mind after we finish, but I think this was really interesting. And I think there's lots of opportunity there. If you can bring forward a little bit more of the opportunities and the potential and the benefits, the benefits to broader society. Again, I think also, I think marketing this project again from the women's angle as well can be an important selling point, saying this is an initiative not just to improve our science, but to improve women's engagement in the management of this information and the scientific world in Fiji. And also then seeing, are there other women's science groups, networks broadly outside of Fiji, in the Pacific Islands, in Asia, and at the global level, that would be willing to sort of help engage with this and help to generate some mutual benefits there. I think that can be that could be an interesting opportunity as well. So yeah, I'll stop there, and I think I think again, this is another interesting. I think this is an opportunity for you to also ask each other questions, and I think it would be good for others there to pose some questions to the group. I hope another question would probably be, when are you going to start this? But you already have the timeline in there, so you perhaps already answered that question. But in addition to us facilitators being a resource, you all are a resource for each other. So I think you should all, I think it would be good for you to hear from each other. If you have any suggestions, ideas, questions, this is all an opportunity to share and benefit from your respective capacities and knowledge.
Can I just add a quick comment? Yeah, I really like your just the concrete goals and objectives, and I really like your timeline. I just want to, as you guys, the timeline, I just want to see your, was the National Marine Biobank Research Center open in 2032. I really expect that. Just a couple of points. To this kind of like information center requires a lot of money, and probably we can ask some funds from government, as well as, I don't know if it's relevant or not, it's kind of World Bank. They are really interested in this kind of activity. And also you need a lot of expert knowledge, and also some opportunity, so what is called a STEM, science, technology, engineering, management. We will probably look for help, whether this STEM program is available out there, and can do probably a lot of collaboration if they are out there. And also there's a lot of opportunity to this for creating a new job and education opportunity in terms of IT experts, data management, and data curators, and software developer or programmer, and more. So I think I see a lot of opportunity there. And also, Dr. Appy had mentioned about you can also build on existing database such as OVC mentioned. Also, I can add a GBIF, and there are also some training opportunity for like data curation and and data exchange kind of things, and that's good opportunity as well out there. Yeah, that's all.
Great. Yeah, thank you for that. Yeah, I did. There are indeed many opportunities to build on, and as you said, developing developing a biobank is quite a big, ambitious thing. So I think thinking in smaller steps is a really useful endeavor. So maybe, are there any questions, comments, suggestions from the broader group from the others outside of the group for that group, or if anyone in the group wants to add any clarifications or responses, please feel free to speak up, raise your hands.
And also, Mavi can be a good collaboration partner because we already have marine information system, and also we have a marine biobank and database system for that. So ask us, we'll be your help. Okay.
Okay. Any hands there? If I were there, I would pick on somebody and make them speak. But please, somebody jump up. Don't be shy. Vanina, are you going to ask another question? So maybe then if people are going to be shy, then I'll ask another question to the group. So maybe if you can give me some background on how you came up with this plan and what was the rationale for it. Is this something that you all in the group are engaged in your work, or is this something that is a little bit outside of what you do? So maybe you can give a little bit of an explanation of where this idea came from.
Thank you, Dr. Epiet. Actually, I suggested the idea because the Ministry of Fisheries, there's an old building which was used before. It was used for a lab, as of now, that building is no longer used. I think that was way back in the 90s. Even the starting service with the ministry way back in 2014, I've been hearing from the former managers for fisheries. They are proposing that they're gonna renovate that building, that there will be a new lab. So from 2014 till to date, there has been nothing done. They are only saying it, but probably due to a change in national priorities and other factors, I think probably they haven't actioned the decision or the proposal that they have put up. That's why I suggested to the team if we can work on that action plan, and and with donors or partners and with the approval from government, then we can proceed further, even starting from small, because since we already have that old building with Ministry of Fisheries, if you can start small from there and utilize the available resources, the staff, the personnel currently with the Ministry of Fisheries, because currently we have a section on our own, a research section, with most of the staff having background. They come from the marine science field. They have the degrees in the marine science field, so they have some knowledge on the biological sampling. They are the very ones who do the biological sampling. And we even have some postgraduate and currently liaising with them. They are now liaising with some other partners to provide them with the microscope. So that's the latest now for the Ministry of Fisheries. That's why I brought up and suggested that idea if we can revive that lab, because currently our research section is collaborating with FAO to fund their microscope. And just while liaising with them this week, FAO will providing the microscope and some of the equipment that they need to assist them with their macroalgae sampling and other work that is relevant with the research. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for that. That's certainly very logical. Building on resources that are already there or not being used. Not necessarily starting from scratch. You're starting from something that's already had investment. It's been there and it's not being used. And I'm sure in that regard, the ministry would probably be interested to use something that is already there and not being used. So yeah, I think it's building on the strengths. Going back to the sort of SWOT analysis approach that we talked at, seeing that those things that are there, even if they're not adequately being used or in a bit of disrepair or not used for a different purpose, nonetheless can be a strength that can be turned into an opportunity. So yeah, very interesting. Thank you. Any other comments, questions? Do others have any ideas or suggestions for the group? No.
Yeah. Sorry, just one last question. What are the possibility for attachment programs or trainings available with Quaker or Mabic?
Good question.
Sorry, could you repeat that again? We do not have many other ODA program here. This is the only ODA program we have at this moment at Mavic, but COICA has a lot of ODA program probably. So Fiji office, can you answer the question?
Okay, hello everyone, good to see you again. I heard you saw me many times on the video. It was very embarrassing. Anyway, thanks for your passionate participation. So you asked, how can we continue to work on our action plan from now on? So basically, as a governmental agency, KOICA runs this program based on the request from the recipient country's request. So every year we receive the PCP, project concept paper, from your government. The government submit the PCP to Korea, and from that, our whole program gets started. So you already made a good action plan, which you made a presentation today. But after you go back to your organization, you will need to upgrade further, because you need to, the action plan had to go through many review inside your organization or intra with other relevant agencies. So based on that action plan, we can improve further. Then it can be a kind of very well-written PCP. I guarantee if you keep working on your action plan you made throughout this course, that PCP would be the best PCP in Fiji, I guess. And so far, since our KOICA office reopened in Fiji, we had no project working with Ministry of Fisheries. So if you improve on your action plan and make a good PCP, that can be our first PCP receiving from the Ministry of Fisheries. So if the PCP get received by the KOICA and it go upward and selected as a successful PCP, then we can actually run the project. But there are also other alternative minor options as well, because the PCP thing is very big in the size, in terms of the budget, in terms of the timeline, in terms of resources. But with your PCP, you can also apply for a, on-site project to the Korea headquarters. The specific department is Capacity Enhancement Program Department, the department running the CEAT program. So you can try two channels. One channel is the PCP channel I explained before, and the other one is the small on-site project, which can be submitted to the Capacity Enhancement Program Department every year. So while you are working on your action plan, you will need more consulting and you will need more advice. Then in that case, you can contact Korean expert and other international expert and the MABIC. So we can keep our partnership growing and getting strengthening like that so far. So that's I can share today. Thank you very much.
Thank you for clarification, PZ. Any other questions? Okay, if you have the question later, you can just leave the question in the chat box. And I think it's quite late in Montreal, so I think it's time to let him go. So thank you, Dr. Appia, for facilitating this session. I truly appreciate your presence and instruction out of such a tremendous busy schedule. I understand how busy you are to organize and arrange the CVD's conference of the parties in this coming December. So everyone, why don't you give him a big round of applause? You've done an excellent job. You know, you're a fabulous facilitator.
Thank you so much. Kamsahamnida and thank you, Bula. Is that how you say that in Fiji? I'm not sure. Anyway, thank you so much. I only wish I could have been there with you in person. I wish you all the best in translating all of these things into reality. And I hope that some of the insights we've provided have been useful Please remember that there are many resources out there. There are many people out there that want to help. And I'm with you in spirit, even if I'm not there in person. So you have a friend here in CBD and somebody who's rooting for you as well. So thank you to the Fiji colleagues, to Koika, to Mabik, Dr. Yang, and everyone for inviting me and involving me. And it was very educational for me as well. I learned quite a lot about the interesting challenges and opportunities in your country. And I wish you all the best. So thank you and good night for me. I'm going to bed. Bye-bye.
All right. Okay, it's almost approaching to 3 p.m. So why don't we have a short tea break? And we'll come back at 3:15. Is it okay?
Yes.
Okay, all right.
이게 켜져 있어.
네, 필요한지 마이크 체크할게요.
첫 번째 마이크는 지금 에코 있나요?
말씀해 주시겠어요?
네, 지금 첫 번째 마이크예요. 에코가 있을까요?
아니요, 없습니다. 괜찮습니다.
네, 그럼 두 번째 할게요. 네, 지금 두 번째 마이크예요. 지금 소리 괜찮을까요?
두 번째 마이크도 괜찮은데 첫 번째 마이크가 훨씬 더 좋았어요.
응?
네, 에코 다 없어요. 첫 번째, 두 번째 마이크 에코 없습니다.
네, 지금 두 번째 마이크 괜찮나요?
네네, 다 잘 깨끗하게 들어옵니다.
네. 네, 네, 잠시만요.
네.
네, 이거 세 번째 마이크입니다. 괜찮나요?
네, 잘 들어옵니다.
네, 그럼 첫 번째, 두 번째, 세 번째 다 괜찮은 거죠?
네, 맞습니다.
네, 확인 감사합니다.
네.
여보세요. 조금 더.
Okay, is everyone on the line? No? Yes? Okay, just before moving on to next section, Mr. Soyoung Bang, Deputy Country Director of Koikak Fiji Office has short announcement. Koikak Office, Fiji Office, go ahead.
Hello, everyone. I hope that you had a good time in this training program. It's good to see that all women are here. And I heard that you were really passionate about this training program. So, well, I'm Deputy Country Director from Koika Fiji office. I'm Soyeon Bang. Nice to meet you all. And before we wrap up our training program today, I would like to deliver some mandatory session for our training program. So this is about Koika data, open data portal that we use to share our data in Koika to the public and to the world. So I will just explain very briefly. So this is open data, and this is kind of Korean context concept. Open data refers to all data or information produced by public institutions like KOICA, and public information for communication and cooperation. Each public institution opens its data to the public, and all the information on the portal is available to everyone on this website. KOICA has been providing more than 30 kinds of open API and files, including ODA statistical data, procurement data, and project reports since 2014. KOICA is opening its data on the ODA projects and management for the public to see whenever they want. You can see KOICA ODA performance by country on this website written at the bottom, and clicking the menu KOICA statistics. Or you can also check KOICA partner countries' COVID-19 situation. At the bottom here, it says covid19.koica.go.kr, and you can also check COVID-19 situations. And also, if you can't find information or data that you're looking for, you can apply for them on Open Data Portal. You can also contact KOICA HQ for some guides before applying for the service on the portal, and you can see the contact info at the bottom of the slide. So that was about the Open Data Portal. And this is anti-corruption and compliance policy that we have. And well, it's just for educational purpose. Yes, it's just for educational purpose. And I just would like to introduce what kind of anti-corruption and compliance policy we have. One is audit and monitoring, regular inspection and audits from the outside, and self-investigations from the inside. And the second one, there is ethics committee, ethics and compliance team committed to preventing corruption at KOICA. And third, of course, there are internal regulations and rules. And lastly, KOICA acquired anti-bribery management and compliance management systems developed by ISO, International Organization for Standardization. Ethical regulations for employees defines the criteria for ethical value judgment and behavior that employees should not comply with in accordance with the Act on the Establishment and Operation of the Anti-Corruption and Ethics Charter of KOICA. And yes, these are some acts and rules that we have in Korea. And let's see some of the examples. So in the case of bidding, there can be some inappropriate request to ease qualification or requirements for bid criteria. And this is violation of improper solicitation and graft act. And next one, receiving gifts from employees working at a company under contract with KOICA is also a violation. And also receiving gifts from other employees within the office is also not allowed. And private transaction by contractors without reporting, also violation. And signing contracts with companies related are cases of violating the Prevention of Conflict of Interest Related Act. And private use of office car for taking child to school or grocery shopping is also not allowed. And if you are aware of any cases mentioned today or have concerns regarding illegal or unlawful activities, they can be reported to KOICA HQ through this following channel. Thank you for listening and congratulations that you finished the training program, and thank you for all your hard work and efforts. Thank you.
Thank you. Great. It's a bit ahead of schedule, but BG office, I'm wondering whether it is possible to go ahead and move on to the commencement now? Or should we wait a bit?
예, 지금 수료식 진행으로 넘어가도 될 것 같습니다.
Okay, so now we move on to the commencement. All right, great. So Deputy Country Director, could you make your way to the front? And I call up a name of the participant, and then you will go to the front, and Deputy Director will award your certificate.
certificate.
Okay, let's start. The host, media, 홍장무 Media is ready. Are you ready? Can you show?
Yes.
Okay. Oh, okay. So PG office is go ahead. I thought I need to call a participant name, but PG office, go ahead.
혹시 양보해서 나오게 해주실 수 있으신가요?
Your voice is breaking up. I couldn't quite hear. I'm sorry, I still can't hear you. There's some problem in your mic or internet connection.
들리시나요?
Yeah, it's fine now.
Yeah. Okay. Stay on the background.
I think I still have some technical issues here. Could you check the mic?
저기 양 교수님만 뒤에 백그라운드로 계시다가.
Is it better to call up
Yes.
from here?
Yeah, I can hear you clearly.
Okay.
We'll start now. We'll start now for the commencement, and first Eleanor Katarina Ringalivalu Ravula. Marama Tikomaila Tikom Lepamoni Lalanga Vesi. Very hard name.
Rene Greta Ranio. Ranian. Hard name. Elizabeth Finau Michelle Vataniarangi. 이름 너무 길어. Natalia Lavia Villasoni. Harisha Achuram. Vai Diramove Vocea. Relieta Mankede. Vivina Servono Valkari. Tamari Lobby. Vamos a hacer. Sei Leone Venua. Melissa Love. Vale. We actually, from the beginning to the end, we were looking at how you participate, how well you're doing the things, and we picked 4 best participants, and they'll be awarded for the prize. And I'll be calling up the names.
Okay, a short announcement about your certificate. Since this is the virtual training course, so basically your certificate was supposed to be distributed in a virtual form. So your physical certificate now you have given is actually our special offer. we overworked last night to prepare it. Actually, not us. It's by the two of Soyoung and Young David. So why don't you give them a big applause? And also, since we are in a gray zone in between the virtual world and the physical world, so you also get your virtual certificate by your email as well from the training agency. So take it preciously as well, so you can prove your participation in the future. So yeah, that's it all from me.
Now I will call out the names for the who gonna receive the present. The first one, Viviana Servono Vocari. The next, Arishima Achinaram. And those two are overall the best. That's what we were looking. And the next two is best. The second best could be and plus while we're doing the action plan, how well they were participating, we were looking at it. Viviana Volosese. And the very last one, that's all for that's all. The next, we can go to next session. Is group photo. Let's give a friend. We can write a certificate to each one.
네, 혹시 들리실까요? 혹시 들리시나요?
네, 잘 들립니다.
네, 여기 뒤에 화면을 좀 네, 저희 백그라운드 요거 쓰는 이미지로 한번 해주시면 될 것 같습니다. 뒤에 이제 단체 사진이라서, 네. 감사합니다.
Okay, so please everyone to be seated. So we are going to we need to take a picture of each of you. So everyone is ready and be seated, and we will take another photo. And I'm gonna call up 2 people at a time. When your name is called, please look at your screen and stay still while I count to 3. Okay? As ready? Okay, I'm gonna call 2 names now. And you know what? Please apologize if I just pronounce your name incorrectly. So Eleanor and Marama. Okay. You look great. So stay still. Okay. Cheese. 1, 2, 3. Good. Okay. All right. Okay. The next is Miss Renee and Elisabetta. Okay, ready? Ready for this? All right. Cheese. 1 and 2 and cheese. Good. Okay. All right. So next, Natalie and Arishma. Okay, big smile. 1, 2, and 3. Good, excellent. Next call-up is Vane and Lilieta, please. Vane and Lilieta, please. Okay, Lilieta. So Lilieta is not ready yet. Somehow I cannot see her. So we'll wait a little bit till she's on the line. If she's back on the line, we will take pictures, okay? 이거 안 되는 거죠? 밀려서 안으로 밀려서 이거 반응 아니에요? Sorry. Okay, okay. Lilieta and Vane is ready. Okay, so are you ready? 1 and 2, 3. Thank you. So next caller is Bibina and Tamari. And Bibina is here. And Tamara is there. Okay, all right. So stay still and just but big smile. Okay, 1. Okay. You are too close to the camera, Bibina. Okay. You just scoot back a little bit. That's great. That's great. Okay, so are you ready? 1, 2, and Bula. Thank you. Thank you, Bibina and Tamari. And next is Beniana and Saini, please. Okay, okay, great. You're looking good. Okay, so all right, stay still. 1, 2, and cheese. Thank you. Thank you so much. Okay, last call is Nanise and Chiri, please. Okay. Chiri, could you a little bit scoop back a little bit? No, it's yeah, no, but a little bit close. Okay, that's good. That's good. Okay, all right. Scoop back a little bit, lean back a little bit, please. Okay, I'll lean back. Okay, that's good. That's good. Okay, you ready? 1, 2, and cheese. Smile. Okay, thank you very much. All right, so I think we got all your pictures, I guess. Okay. All right. It's time to wrap up. Okay, so I have 2 quick reminders. So please submit. Please take the survey. As you're informed, you need to take 2 surveys before and after the workshop. Some of you haven't finished the pre-workshop survey yet, so please do so with no further delay. And secondly, please submit your revised action plan based on some comments and your thought, or you're just rethinking. And I need to have that by next Friday, so make sure meet the deadline, please. Okay, great job, everyone. Now it's time to wrap up. Okay, I'd like to express my sincere gratitude to Koika by giving us the opportunity to host this workshop by sponsoring this program. And also thank you very much, Koika Fiji office, for inviting participants and arranging many details. I really appreciate that. In addition, I want to take a moment to thank all the lecturers and facilitators, Dr. Kyunghwa Baek, Dr. Jinok Baek from Mabit, Dr. Luciana Ginio, and Dr. Sonakshi Mishra from ISA, and Dr. Joseph Appiah from CBD. I owe you much to make this workshop work. Again, thank you very much. Finally, your dear participants, thank you for joining us at this workshop. I really appreciate your participation. I know you have many roles, government officers, and some of you are some wives and mothers as well, mothers as well, and you have kids. I understand you left many things behind to attend this workshop. I really appreciate that. And I hope this workshop has been useful to you. And I also hope the action plan you development at this workshop will be further revised and eventually well implemented in the future and make it beneficial to people in Fiji. Also, I hope that participants today will continue to network and reach out together, make alliances, and grow together. Our workshop originally intended to invite participants to Korea and learn together, discuss together, and conduct field work together, and give you an opportunity to visit Korean institutions where they perform marine researches, exhibitions, and policy makings. But it was very unfortunate this couldn't happen, and this workshop was reformatted to an online workshop program due to the COVID-19 pandemic. I hope next year we host this program in Mabit, Korea, and invite you and do in-person training. And I expect to meet some of you again in Korea. Finally, spread the word about Koika's effort to Fiji fellowship work program and our future workshop as well. Enough said, let's finish the workshop. With that, now I conclude 2022 Global Women's Leadership Training Program in Marine Bioresources Information System. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Koika. Thank you, Hongdamu Media, for technical support. Thank you all. Hey. Thank you. Goodbye and enjoy the party tonight. Okay. 감사합니다. 감사합니다. Bye.